Hello everyone. In this video I want to be talking about dead naming. Dead naming is when someone refers to a trans or non-binary person by the name they no longer use. It can affect mental health. For many transgender and non-binary people, a name change is a powerfully affirming part of living the true identity. It's an opportunity to choose a name that feels like a better representation of their gender identity. After changing their name, many people find that reminders of their old name, typically the name they were given at birth, induces anxiety, gender dysphoria, and a sense of not being seen as their true gender. While occasional slip-ups from family and friends are inevitable at the start, if your name, pronouns, or ultimately your identity are not respected and used by those around you, it can feel deeply invalidating with various mental health issues. The term dead naming is not only used for trans people, but while many cisgender people may also change their name for various reasons, dead naming is most often used in reference to trans and non-binary people. Dead naming often involves misgendering someone too, which can have significant and lasting negative impact on trans people. Dead naming is when a trans or non-binary person is mistakenly or deliberately called by a non-affirmed name they no longer identify with. I'm sorry, the puppy is going to be yelling in the background because the cat is driving her crazy. This is known as their dead name. It's usually the name they had before they transitioned or came out. Changing your name, unfortunately, doesn't happen overnight. Your old name might still exist on official documents and in the minds of friends and family. As psychologically painful as dead naming can be, it can occur on a regular basis. Loved ones may mistakenly refer to you by your old name, especially as they're getting used to calling you something new. In other cases, they may be resistant to the change or refuse to use your chosen name. The lack of acceptance can feel very painful. Research from 2020 found that the lack of family support was associated with higher psychological distress among transgender and non-binary people. Colleagues, classmates, administrators, or teachers may also use your old name. Systems within schools or workplaces are often lagging when it comes to making changes to people's names at the administrative level, particularly if their old name is still their legal name. Government-issued IDs such as birth certificate, driver's license, passports, or social security card may also contribute to dead naming. The 2015 U.S. Transgender Survey reported that only 11% of trans people were able to change their government-issued IDs to their true name and gender, while 68% said none of their IDs had been changed, citing financial costs as a barrier. Dead naming also occurs in print and digital media, especially when the person's name has not been legally changed or if the publication appears before the name change. When a celebrity comes out publicly as transgender, media outlets often refer to both their dead name and their chosen name. In general, LGBTQIA+ folks experience higher rates of mental health problems and trauma than the general population. The reasons are numerous and can include a lack of acceptance by family or wider society, bullying in work or school, physical threats to their safety, negative portrayals of LGBTQIA+ people in the news and media, Specifically for trans and non-binary people, hearing your old name can induce feelings of anxiety, gender dysphoria, and the lack of acceptance. And depending on the situation, it can make you fearful for your safety. Being dead named can also be potentially dangerous, outing them to the people that they are trans who may not have that information, who may respond with questioning, harassment, discrimination, or even violence. Refusing or failing to use a person's chosen name can also affect personal relationships and family dynamics. People who are dead named, especially by a friend or loved one, may experience that act as a signal that the person does not respect them, support them, or doesn't care enough about them to put the effort to use their name. The result can be a feeling of profound invalidation, and at the very least, it's invasive and unwanted. As such, dealing with dead naming can lead to chronic stress from worrying about your acceptance and safety, avoiding certain situations, people, and places, depression, low self-worth, suicidal ideation. The role of discrimination is, oh my god, there's so many ways of discrimination involved. According to a 2020 study, transgender people, particularly transgender youth of color, face widespread discrimination. Dead naming adds to the marginalization and oppression that trans people have already been working so hard to overcome. Transgender people desire to be seen and observed as their true gender. When someone uses a dead name, it can feel invalidating because they are not being seen as the gender they want to be seen as. On the other hand, research has shown that affirming someone's identity can make a big difference in supporting their mental health. Changes to a person's name and pronouns are powerful self-affirmations. A 2018 study involving 129 trans and gender nonconforming youth in the United States found that having their chosen name used in more context was associated with lower depression, suicidal ideation, and suicidal behavior. The Trevor Project's 2021 National Survey on LGBTQ youth mental health showed that 42% of LGBTQ youth considered suicide in the past year, more than half of which were trans and non-binary. Importantly, trans and non-binary youth whose pronouns were respected attempted suicide at half the rate than those whose pronouns were not accepted. In addition, the survey found that trans and non-binary youth who changed their name, gender marker, or both on legal documents, including birth certificates and driver's license, had lower rates of suicide attempts. The survey respondents were 45% LGBTQ people of color and 38% were trans or non-binary. The research indicates that gender-affirming support for transgender and gender nonconforming youth should include consistent use of their chosen name and pronouns and is crucial to the psychological well-being. Gender-affirming support can truly help save lives. If someone has used your old name, you might gently correct the person if you feel comfortable doing so. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you might ask an ally to correct them later or to jump in and correct them for you next time. If friends or family are frequently using your old name, it may help to sit down with them and explain the impact this can have on your mental well-being. You might explain that it feels invalidating, shows a lack of care, or feels like a refusal to accept you. If your old name appears in print, for example, writers and researchers may have publications under their old name. If you can help to contact the outlet and request that they update your name. If you're experiencing discrimination or the lack of acceptance at home or at work, it can help to contact a trans or non-binary support hotline to talk with someone who understands. This includes the Trevor Lifeline and Chatline. If you're frequently encountering your old name through your ID or legal documents, there are a few organizations that can help you change your documents or provide legal or financial support. And they are GLBTQ Legal Advocates and Defenders, National Center for Transgender Equality, Transgender Law Center, Trans Lifeline, and Trans Social Incorporated. For suicide prevention, if you or someone you know is considering it, you're not alone. Help is available. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline 24 hours a day at 1-800-273-8255. You can text HOME to the crisis text line at 741-741. You can call the Trans Lifeline, the only hotline that is ran by and for trans people, at 877-565-8860. The Trevor Project provides crisis support for LGBTQIA plus people. You can call their hotline at 866-488-7386 or text START to 678-678. If you're not in the United States, you can find a helpline in your country with the Befrienders Worldwide website, and that is at befrienders.org. It is actually already on my community page. To avoid dead naming someone, a helpful exercise is to practice using their name when you're with them, and provided that they're okay with you doing so, more or less they'll be okay with it, using their chosen name when you're talking about them with other people. This will make it easier over time and signal to others how to correctly refer to that person. Just make sure that you're not using their chosen name with someone who they're not out with. They might want you to continue using their old name with certain people. If you're not sure what name to use at a given moment, ask the person in private and then respect their preferences. You can practice saying the person's chosen name to yourself. Be intentional about using their name. Ask others to correct you if you use the wrong name, and never ask someone to share their dead name with you. Even when you're making an effort, you might use someone's old name by accident. When this happens, simply acknowledge your error, apologize, and then move on. There is no reason to continuously apologize and make a big deal out of it. Remember that referring to a trans person by their newly chosen name allows them to show up in the world as their fullest self. If you're a cisgender ally and want to advocate for transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people, you can help spread the word about why dead naming is harmful and educate others on how to avoid it.